Hi, everyone. I'm going to introduce Elise Campaign, who's going to answer some questions on funding and grants.
Everyone, I'm delighted to be part of the conversation today. I wish I were there with you in person. I'm the Climate Initiative Leader for the Southern Environmental Law Center. And for those who don't know us, we work in 6 states in the South, the Carolinas, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, and Virginia. And we, for nearly 40 years, have been a local presence doing place-based action with an unmatched network of partners. And we use coordinated legal expertise and advocacy skills to create climate wins for and with communities across the South. And so, really happy to be part of this conversation.
Great. We have 3 questions for you. The first one is, what types of grants are out there for cities, and what are some of the requirements needed to acquire them?
There is a huge array of grant opportunities, and overstate how big of a moment this is through the new federal climate laws, the Inflation Reduction Act, the infrastructure law. Um, the uh, the Inflation Reduction Act touched on, I think, 39 federal programs, and so combined, it's hitting across a broad suite of areas. So I guess, first of all, I would say what puts you in a good position to succeed and draw funding for projects in your community is having a plan of attack. So, one really important grant that just recently flowed through our region was the EPA Climate Pollution Reduction Acts, through which North Carolina and South Carolina and large municipalities in our states received money to put together an inventory of the biggest sources of climate pollution and plans and priorities for addressing them. And that plan, which will continue to be worked on for the next 2 years, is a great place to use as a resource for kind of the base information that you typically need to apply. And it is that's a base from which you can apply for and encourage partners to apply for anything from energy efficiency upgrades, building improvements, micro transit, bus retrofits, uh, composting programs, developing the clean energy workforce. And so that's a really important place to tap into. And I would also say that partnering, working with cities and other public entities, those could be school districts, those could be water utilities, those could be community-based partners. A lot of the grants look for connections between the different stakeholders to come together and bring their different skills to bring the projects to life. So there are a whole slew of projects out there, but I think the first thing is to not be limited by trying to imagine what you need for your climate challenge based on the grants that are available, but first think big about, like, what are the various ways that we can address the climate emergency by looking at all of the sources of climate pollution and the where those impacts are need to be mitigated the most, and what kind of cleanup solutions and or lines of attack are the most helpful for you.
What about the formula and the competitive grants? And do some of them sometimes require an actual action plan be in place or a staff be hired?
Well, what those that's a great question. What the CPRD program that I just mentioned did was it did fund some capacity that it was needed at the state and municipal level to put the kind of plans and inventories in place. But the grants that are out there, some of them are time limited uh, grants that are competitive grants. One that's open right now is the EPA's community change grants. I think it's $2 billion that is open now until November. Again, wide range of projects can qualify, weatherization, bus transit, a whole suite of things. And while that's a discrete, specific grant opportunity, you might be putting together a plan and identifying a need that if that one doesn't work out, There's also formula funding. So the Department of Transportation has every year pots of money that they allocate to states and then drive down to the local levels that pays for things like buses or electrification. And so it's not a one-time opportunity. It's just that some of these competitive grants, the planning resources, but it is not required to have a staff member. It is not required to have a plan in most instances, but it does help because it's just a place of coordination to show and demonstrate that you're not just pulling this out of thin air.
Okay. Now, how do grants get implemented through the state, region, feds, and will this money run out over time? Are there any typical deadlines for now? From what we hear, there are a lot of deadlines coming up this year. So we're concerned about the timeline here.
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned, there are a couple of these programs, particularly the EPA programs, that this administration is aggressively pushing to get those dollars out quickly. And that's primarily because they're really wanting to address the Justice 40 concerns about disproportionate burden of the, where and how pollution impacts are felt. And so there are some deadlines that are coming up this fall for things like the Community Change Grant Program. However, again, I just, in most cases, there are other sources of funding that keep coming available. And so the best bet could be to look at there's guides to the online from the White House that are of the guide to the Inflation Reduction Act, guide to the bipartisan infrastructure law. There are also portals that help do this wayfinding because it can be really confusing, but there are plenty of websites and organizations out there that can help you come up with the match. So again, most important is to come up with what do we need and then roll up the sleeves to figure out where to go get it.
Okay, great. And last question, as we have 2 minutes left, is since a lot of small towns are short on staff and time, and grant applications take a lot of time, what resources do they have in order to help them apply for these grants or find the right funding?
This is a really great time to be out there pressing for climate projects and programs because there is a lot of funding for support that's out there. Two of the big ones that we work with are the Southeast Sustainability Directors Network, SSDN. They have a local infrastructure hub. It's terrific. They can help local governments and community groups, again, do the technical assistance to put together the data you apply to help determine which are the best pots of money to go for. So they're a great resource. They also have a lot of resources on their website. The State Funding Readiness Project is another, and they offer free, fast technical assistance to apply for climate-related programs. And there we go.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Keep going. You have 1 more minute left.
Hey, sorry, I didn't want to run out of time, but there are a lot at the nonprofit level. There are some other partners like Pre-Collective is another organization that has some good information about how to be competitive. The Energy Foundation in our region has funded grant writers that are working with some of our cities. I know Orangeburg, Columbia, I imagine the city of Charleston in South Carolina and the Raleigh area definitely have all been working with some of these other philanthropic partners who have helped make some of that technical assistance available. So go get them. This is the time.
And a great measurement tool option would be with ICLEI, which provides, I heard the EPA provides a measurement tool, but they don't provide forecasting, apparently, from what I hear. And so ICLEI does provide a measurement tool, but also forecasting with like 75 plus actions. They came out with a data dashboard just this year. So some great resources, and SSDN apparently helps them find the right funding and sometimes collaborate on applications too. Is that right?
Yes, they're another great resource. Yes, they're just a great convergence of people that are out there ready to support the great work.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, Elise. We are at time. I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you.
Thank you.